Welcome to worsttutorials.com. Today, Brad and I are going to show you the HX Stomp. And how Brad is just giving it a round of applause from the get-go.
I'm just going to standing ovation.
Brad, your head just got cut off.
It doesn't matter.
It seriously is that good.
It's amazing.
We'll start this. The too long didn't read version is
you need
awesome.
one.
It depends on how you want to use it.
It does. There's lots of discussion about like why the heck would I need one of these.
We're going to talk about that.
We're going to hope to answer that.
So in this review video, I'm just going to let you know up front, we're going to do a lot of talking about this because there's a lot of different ways you can use it, and I feel like we need to explain that a little bit.
Yes.
You're going to hear it, and what you see down here on the pedal board, I'll give you a big shot of it, is I threw together the pedals that I had laying around.
Yes.
Right? Volume. This is a Will Sledge Effects White Horse, which is a Klon. This is a Will Sledge Effects Veil, which is an 808, like a tube screamer here, and a boost.
Just
we're
like
using
a clean boost.
Yeah, we're using HX Effects, but you can just see all we have on there is tremolo, chorus, and delay, and there's also a compressor. From there, we go to the Boss RV6. So if you have like a delay and reverb, we've recreated this. And then we're using HX Stomp at the end of the board, and it is recreating amps and some effects.
Yeah.
So the signal chain goes like this. Volume pedal goes into HX Effects. From inside HX Effects, it hits a deluxe compressor. Then the effects loop comes out, and our two analog drives go through the effects loop, goes back into HX Effects, hits the modulation and delay effects, then out of HX Effects to the RV6 to the HX Stomp, which is coming out in stereo.
And the reason why we did that is because we wanted to be able to use the compressor before the drives.
Yes.
So, but hey, before we keep talking, maybe we should just let them hear something good.
Yeah. So what you're going to hear now is some playing of the some of these things through our free. You can these patches for HX Stomp are available in the links below. Free AC30 patch for HX Stomp. It's the same as our Helix patch. We just ported it over, and you get what is available in HX Stomp. So a lot of people ask, how does it sound? How do the amps in Helix sound when you put analog drives into it?
Yes. Honestly, I kind of like this a little bit better than the Helix even.
Oh, than the Helix drives.
So I love analog stuff,
yeah.
Reverbs aren't analog, but I love like pedals.
Yeah.
And so I was really looking forward to this because of what we're going to get to do with it.
Yes.
And Brian and I are very familiar with the Helix.
Yes, we are.
I think that's obvious that we know this.
Yes, we've
made
lots of Helix patches and everything. Yes. Okay.
Lots of Helix patches.
Sorry, I interrupted you.
No, that is okay, because the second that we plugged this thing and got this board going, and I just played a clean chord and it sounded good, but I kicked on these overdrives and I was blown away.
Well, Will Sledge makes primo
Will
overdrives.
Sledge makes good stuff regardless.
Yeah.
But combining these two,
it sounds like real drives into a real amp.
yeah.
So if you've ever, and we've done this before, like Brad's taken his board
we messed around with
into the Helix and just used the amps in the Helix, and it sounded great.
But we didn't really put much stock in it at the time because it kind of seemed impractical to carry pedal board in a Helix.
Yeah.
But.
Well, let's talk for a second what you get with HX Stomp, because I think there might be a little bit of confusion around that. So HX Stomp is everything that you get in the Helix as far as like the effects and the amps and everything go. You get everything. What you don't get is, of course, the button and expression pedal layout and the DSP power. So it only has one DSP chip in it. The Helix has two. And because of that, you have 6 blocks. So you have 6 things you can put in HX effects. So for example, our free AC30 patch has the amp, that's 1. It has the IR cabinet, which is 2, or the stock Helix cabinet. Now you can combine those into one block, but we like IR sound better in our opinion. So
feel good.
So that's 2. It's got 2 delays, it's got a reverb, and it has an EQ block. And so for our patches, what we wanted was the core amp tone, which is the amp, the cab, and the EQ block. That's like what makes it happen.
Yeah.
And in some of our other patches, we added a compressor in too, because it's part of the tone.
Yeah, and if you're gonna do like hit the compressor first and then go out to like your board and then come back to like at the end, you can do that with an effects loop, and so that's what's really cool about it too.
Yeah.
So you could put this thing basically anywhere in your chain. So if you need some like crazy random sound, or like maybe you don't want to buy a tremolo pedal or like a modulation pedal, you can route this in such a way that it like sits there and it sits on the back end, which is really cool.
Yeah. Let's hear another sound. So Brad's going to continue to play this, and you're going to hear our Archigator patch for HX Stomp. It is the Line 6 emulations of the PRS Archon clean channel and their own Litigator, which is like a Dumble-ish super overdrive thing. Sounds cool.
Yes.
So you get 6 blocks, and then you get 3 foot switches on the thing. One of them is tap by default, but you can change that to be other things. You can then add external tap or external switches, up I think 2 more, and you can add external expression pedals to it. But you can still only control 6 blocks in one patch. So a lot of people are saying, can this thing replicate or replace my rig? And I think if you do typical praise and worship stuff,
to a certain extent it can.
It can't replicate like all the
whole
P&W thing, right? It can't do that. It can do a classic rock. Like you can have an amped tone. You can set one button to up the gain on your amp, so you don't really need a drive. And so your drive could be built into your amp, and then you could have reverb and delay, and that might be all you really need.
Yeah.
And that could be a rig or like a backup rig, but it shines when used with other stuff.
And I think that was kind of their goal.
That was what they wanted to do.
We're seeing a lot of people thinking that like the price point's too high, or they're saying that like, but I can only use like so many effects. Like what's and we don't know. We weren't in the board meeting when Line 6 decided to talk about this. But like here's the way we look at it. Think about $600 and what it gets you and when it comes to an amp.
Yeah.
You really can't get
the
options.
A Chinese-made Vox AC15,
and like a Blues Junior,
or
a
Fender Blues Junior.
Options in that range, and they're great options because like I had a Blues Junior for the longest time.
Yeah, they do sound good.
I loved it, and actually like a Blues Junior AC15 is a sweet rig, but
stereo,
like you can't get 2 of those for $600. Like maybe actually you could if you tried hard you could probably find them both for $300. Yeah. But then you have to lug 2 amps around. So
you gotta mic them and
then you gotta get good mics, and you gotta make sure they're mic'd properly, and you gotta carry them in. So
but with this you can have a matchless DC30
and like a deluxe reverb
in the same stereo for $600 and a delay and a reverb
or whatever you want.
I mean, this thing is crazy.
It is. And it's smaller. So a lot of questions I see also is like, or not questions, but statements. Seems to look like the size of a timeline or something. Yeah. It's smaller. I'd say the timeline is probably about like 2 inches wider. This thing is a bit taller, quite a bit taller, but I mean it's small. So if you wanted it could take a corner of your board, and that could be your you could get like a pedal train too, which is what we have here, but that's not the point. Drop, volume pedal, your delay and reverb, even your drives, and you could carry on one of these boards and be like,
that's your whole rig.
That's your whole rig, and it sounds awesome.
Sounds awesome.
And it like it's not just that it sounds awesome; it also feels good.
Yeah.
Like that's a thing that you feel like you may be sacrificing when you get digital stuff. Is that like the feel's not there? But if you're playing with in-ears anyways, which a lot of people do nowadays, and your amp is off stage and it's isolated or whatever, I would submit that you won't be able to tell the difference.
Yeah.
Or if anything, you're gonna feel like this is way better.
It is way better.
And you're
I'm gonna definitively say it is way better.
Objectively
Unless
better.
your audio engineer is like a pro.
Yeah.
All right, let's hear some more sounds. You're gonna hear in this next segment, we're gonna play our matchless HX Stomp patch. Again, link available below to get that.
Get them.
Why don't you just get a matchless DC-30 inside of a tiny little box, Bradford?
For $600.
Man. Okay.
That weighs like a pound.
So here are a few more applications that you might that I think would be useful for HX Stomp, especially in the praise and worship world. I think bass players would love this thing, because we don't have bass patches available at worship tutorials, although we will soon. But I use the Helix for bass a lot when I record stuff. And the Helix, or HX, it's all in the HX Stomp. There are some great bass amps. There are some really good, like, dark glass and,
dark glass stuff is choice.
There's some really nice bass stuff. And I feel like Line 6 doesn't get enough appreciation for the love that they give to bass players. So this thing is great for, like, just think of it as a bass DI, but it's an entire rig. Yeah. Really.
But and like
you can do synth stuff, octave stuff.
That's what I was about to
say. You're going to talk about effects for that?
Random. Yeah. If you're like a bass player who likes to keep it simple, but like there's that like one Sunday where like your worship leader's like, we're going to do that Switchfoot song, This Is Your Life, and I need you to make it sound like a synth. Yeah. And like you're like, oh, well, I can do that. So there's that. Also, acoustic players could benefit from this.
So we'll have an acoustic patch ready for this too, but like we have an acoustic
need the
patch.
Amps, but you can still use.
We have one for Helix. But if you're going to use this on your board and you play an acoustic guitar from time to time, this thing is great because you can run
switcheroo,
a compressor. You can use a preamp in there if you want to. I haven't explored that much with Helix stuff, but you can run compression, EQ, delay, a little bit of verb. It's great for acoustic guitar. It's way better, in my opinion, than something like an LR Baggs Parody Eye, because it just does so much more, and it sounds just as good. Yeah. So keys players can use it too. Sure.
And then it can be an all-in-one unit for like a worship leader who maybe occasionally plays electric guitar,
or for rhythm electric,
like a rhythm, like with not having a lot of buttons and not having a lot of blocks. Like it'd be hard to kind of cram in, like we said, like delays, verbs, overdrive, compressor, amps, and all that. But we're gonna make some basic patches that, like, if you were just to take this and you were a worship leader playing electric guitar, you could do this and like turn on an overdrive and a delay or a verb, or just like turn those things, like mix and match or something. We're gonna explore that, but like this could be a great all-in-one rig if you're a guy who kind of plays electric every once in a while. Or maybe like overdrive pedals are a little easier to obtain. Maybe you're looking to get one of these for everything else, but you have an overdrive pedal.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot, like basically anything you could possibly want to do this for, it can help supplement stuff to some extent.
Now I'm gonna make a suggestion that I think, Brad, you should try, because here's the last thing I want to say about what you can do with this. We live in a world of Kemper and Helix here at Worship Tutorials. So Brad and I both have a Helix and we both have a Kemper, and we love them both. Mm-hmm. But with HX Stomp, this is what you can do. You can do this with Helix too. You could take an amp. You could put your amp in HX Stomp and pan it all the way left. And so your left output would go to the board as a dry signal. And then you could put all your wet effects going to the right, straight out, without going through the amp, into the Kemper. And you could run a wet-dry rig with two different amps, one being Kemper, one being the Helix, or HX Stomp, HX being your dry. And you could put drives in front of it, so both of them get the drives.
Yeah.
Like, that would be cool.
Some guys,
you can be pretty creative with what you do with it.
Oh, yeah. And your audio guy with that would have to know, because, that gives them control to, control the wet sound, essentially. Yeah. But, because you obviously want to be able to have that. But
Kemper can't do dual, or it can do dual amps if you profile two amps at once, but it can't do two different amp profiles.
You can't, pan left and right with it. You can do stereo effects, basically.
But if you ran a board into a Kemper and you had an HX Stomp, you could run dual amps. Mm-hmm. It'd be pretty sweet. Mm-hmm. The wheels are turning.
The wheels are turning.
Yes, so Brad's probably going to take this home with him.
So long,
and get it going.
Long and the short,
it's pretty awesome. One thing, when I first plugged it in, and Brad just experienced this too today, because is this the first time you played through it today? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I knew, because I know that the same stuff, the same ones and zeros that make it happen, are inside this HX Stomp that are in the Helix. They sound exactly the same.
That we were switching between them.
You cannot pick up the difference. Mm-mm. It's the same exact thing. But the fact that it's in this box that's this big, it's crazy. Yeah. When you think, it's like, I knew it was going to happen, but when I actually was experiencing it, it was kind of like, wow, we live in interesting times to be a guitar player, because this little thing just sits on the end of your board,
and you can put 2 amps in it.
Yeah, and it's cool.
Whatever. We're just repeating things we said because we believe it 100%.
Yes, but if you want a solution to go direct at the end of your board and use your beloved pedals, because they're awesome. I don't know if you can beat HX Stomp. I mean, not for the money. You could go Kemper.
Well, even then, there's still nothing that's this size that I think.
Yeah.
Like, there's other devices that do it, but I don't. From what I've heard.
Yeah.
I've never played other ones, but from what I've heard, they don't sound anywhere near as good as this.
I mean, you could go Kemper, but then you're looking at 3 times the price. Almost.
Yeah, they're like 16, 17.
And then you're looking at another piece of gear, and it sounds awesome, no doubt. Kemper sounds awesome.
No doubt.
But if you want something like this to go on the end of your board, I don't know what else is out there that would do it right now. They nailed it. Good job, Line 6.